Hey Waffle Gang, I do hope you are well. My name is Mark and today we're checking out some more Reddit stories. And if you do love a Reddit story, why not consider hitting a like, subscribe, maybe that notification bell too. Let's crack on with today's first story. Not sure where that came from. Much love, guys. Now, today's first story comes from a throwaway account from the TrueOffMyChest subreddit. And it says, my husband lied about being deathly allergic to a certain food. And this now has a 4-year update. The original post came October 9th, 2022. It starts. When I met my husband and we started dating, he told me that he was deathly allergic to a certain food. We avoided certain restaurants on dates. He was always careful what he ordered and we ate out, and he was always careful what he ordered when we ate out. And the first time I cooked for him, I purged that food from my apartment and basically sterilized my kitchen. He showed me his EpiPen and explained how to use it. When we moved in together, we made sure that there was one in the house, one in the car, and I always had one in my purse. My family knows, and they avoid using that food at family events, and my husband is still extra careful about what he eats. Last weekend for my brother's birthday, my sister-in-law made dinner. One of my nephews has an allergy. Though different from my husband, my sister-in-law is very diligent about keeping him and my husband safe. She gave us 2 Tupperware dishes of leftovers, and the one for my husband had a different colored lid. When my husband ate the wrong leftovers, both me and my sister-in-law panicked. My husband said even having his food prepared with utensils that touched the food he's allergic to would be enough to give him a deadly reaction. He told me stories of it happening as a kid. He ate the wrong dish of leftovers and nothing happened. He confessed to me and my family that he was never allergic. He just doesn't like that particular food, and when he went to university, he started saying he was allergic because that was better than looking like a picky eater. His mum died before I met him. His parents were divorced, and until he was an adult, he didn't see his dad lots because his dad lived in another province. So his dad, his friends, and even his own family thought he was allergic. The panic I felt when I thought he ate something that would kill him is something I could never describe. My sister-in-law thought she did kill him. I can't believe he's been lying since the day I met him. I just need to get off my chest how furious I am at him right now. A commenter says, this seems to be a common thing people lie about. My twin sister tried to convince her husband that she was allergic to strawberries. When I asked her about it in front of him, her eyes widened in panic and she said, I've always been allergic, you know this. To which I replied, we grew up eating strawberry shortcakes and you were eating chocolate-covered strawberries just 2 years prior. Why are you lying? Needless to say, she eventually cut ties with me. Similarly, my wife has many stories about when she worked at McDonald's. My favorite was when a customer ordered a Big Mac with no pickles and claimed a single slice of pickle would kill them. My wife, taking the customer's health risk seriously, suggested if the customer wanted the Mac sauce removed, since it also contained pickles. The customer then says, I can have a little bit of pickles. It seems a stupid thing to lie about, but for some odd reason, people do it. Sorry you had to stress out about your SO's lie before they came clean. A commenter says, saying you're allergic is one thing, so they won't give you the food. But why did he have to say he's deathly allergic and that food can't even be prepared with utensils that have touched the other food? That's insane, making people do so much work for him. And how the hell did he get an EpiPen? One more commenter who says, similar story, but my friend freaked out one night when he learned the meal he was obviously loving had shellfish in it and he was deathly allergic. I was like, holy shit dude, I didn't know, where's your EpiPen? Then he tells me no, he doesn't have one of these. And I'm like, what the fuck, you don't? No, I've always been allergic. And he was like, my mom always told me. And yeah, so what happened is, his mum since he was a little kid was overprotective and invented a shellfish allergy that he didn't actually have. He was fine all night after eating shit tons of shrimp. He's tried other shellfish and realized he was living this fake lie for 40 plus years. Wacky. I was left equally confused as that comment that was asking, lying about your being allergic to something is one thing, but being deathly allergic at the same time, carrying an EpiPen around? Absolutely wild. And it's straight, like I was looking through the comments and how common this kind of thing is. And I mean, how would you feel after discovering something like that? Because it's not like a harmless white lie, it's putting people through unnecessary panic and making them bend over backwards for something that was never true. And once the trust gets broken like that, how do you see the person the same way again? That's what I always struggle with these kind of things. But as I said, OP came in with an update nearly 4 years later, July 26, 2026, and says, to be truthful, I completely forgot I had posted here. I tried signing up so I could post about my situation, and I was notified that my email address was already associated with an account here. I don't remember writing my other post. I was so upset back then though. For context, my 36 female husband, 37 male, lied about having a deadly food allergy. It fell apart because he ate leftovers that were given to us by my sister-in-law, and nothing happened despite him eating food he was supposedly deathly allergic to. My nephew has a different, real allergy, so my sister-in-law was always careful about cross-contamination. When my sister gave us the leftovers, the containers had different colored lids so my husband would know which one was safe for him to eat. I guess he forgot or wasn't paying attention and he ate mine instead. He said he lied about being allergic because people take it more seriously than someone saying they have a preference not to eat certain things. Meanwhile, I always made sure we had an EpiPen nearby and have been hyper vigilant when I cook or we go to restaurants. I was so furious. The long and short of it is that we are in marriage counseling. Yes, and I'm not trying to sound dramatic. When the situation with the leftovers happened, my husband apologized to me for making me panic and for his lying. He admitted to being a picky eater, and while a lot of people were upset with him, I thought that was the end of it. I tried to let it go, even though it bothered me how he went so far as to carry an EpiPen for an allergy he doesn't have. But that wasn't the only lie, and I've been floundering. He lied about receiving a scholarship for a university for athletics and losing it because he got injured. He was never recruited for a sport. He applied to university the regular way and took student loans like most other people do. He lied about spending a season working in Antarctica before we met. He's never been there. He lied about restoring an old automobile. He bought it fully restored, but when he goes to car shows he says he did it all himself. There are a million other things and it's basically been a bomb in our relationship. I know and have proof there are things he didn't lie about. His mum died from cancer before we met. His dad lives in another province and wasn't involved in his life. He has a law degree and works as a lawyer. My husband's excuse is that he lies so he can feel better about himself, and that's why he doesn't lie about big things, like his dad not being involved in his life growing up. For a year and a half after the leftover situation, things were normal, even if people couldn't understand why he lied about an allergy. Then more lies came out. I haven't left because we have a 5-year-old. We're in counseling because we are both children of divorce, and I don't want that for my son. My family and friends say I should leave, but I'm trying to work on my marriage for my son's sake. I'm floundering. That's basically what's going on and where I'm at right now. Someone asks, what happened to the nephew who also got his food switched? Opie says, my nephew never had his food switched. My sister-in-law gave us 2 containers of leftovers to take home, and my husband ate mine instead of his own. And when asked about the EpiPen, Opie says in Canada you can purchase them at the pharmacy. A prescription isn't required. Like in the first part of the story, I was already questioning how you look at someone the same way again if they consistently lie like they have been. You also discover that it's been a pattern of lies for some time. The stories of the scholarship, Antarctica, restoring a classic car, and they were just made up to make him seem more interesting. The trust would just be completely gone. You'll be questioning everything, even the things that are true, that you think are true. And I just wonder if OP's got a bit of sunk cost fallacy going on. I know why they'd want to protect their child, etc., but you have to question things, right? In a warehouse I used to work at some years ago, there was always a guy there who would make up stories, nothing like this, nothing about Antarctica and things like that, but he would always have stuff that he thinks would make him look good, like he had an argument with a truck driver and it nearly got into a fight, but he said this and it controlled the situation. It was always about fights and stuff like that, like it would impress us. Obviously it never did, because it's like, why are you trying to fight lorry drivers, you buffoon? But then he would get himself tangled up in his own lies and then would lie more to get himself out of it. It was just exhausting to listen to. But what do you guys make of this situation? Would you be able to stay in that relationship? Do you think there's something to build on still? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below, and let's move on to another story. Now our next story comes from OKRun2877 from the Am I the Arsehole subreddit. And it says, am I the arsehole for telling my sister-in-law that her opinion isn't more important than mine? So, a bit of context. I, 24 female, am getting married in September. I love that month since it's kind of between summer, fallish. Anyway, my fiance, 29 male, proposed to me last December on my birthday. I've met his family countless times. My future mother-in-law, father-in-law, and sister-in-law. They're all very cordial and friendly. Well, this mess started when I began organizing my wedding, which is very tedious but really exciting. We hired a wedding planner to see how we could mix our tastes and hobbies. He's a bit of a data computer nerd in coding. I call him my little hacker, and he loves the Matrix movie, which I haven't seen. Anyway, we wanted to add little quirks wherever we could. Maybe some comp numbers and some Matrix references hidden in between our wedding invitations decorations. I'm a fan of Breaking Bad, a nerd when it comes to the Oscar race movies since I was little, and Ariana Grande. I know. It's been so fun to see how we can mix it all together. Well, last week I invited over my mum, my future mother-in-law, sister-in-law, and both of my sisters to our third wedding planner meeting. They saw all we had done and found it cute. I made sure that those little things were hidden well enough to not be seen quickly, but could be pointed out. My sister-in-law out of nowhere says that we should cut it, that it's too tacky. My fiance explains that we both had discussed it and love the idea. She doubles down and says we should be more classy. Girl, I looked at her and said that these clues were not only hidden, but would only appear on our wedding invitations. She looked at me so crazy, like she couldn't believe I said that. She said she was just looking out for me. She went on to say that we shouldn't have chocolate cake, it should be strawberry. How my dress shouldn't be princess cut since it's 280s. How I should dye my hair brunette because it fits my face. At some point, it started sounding like orders. I looked at her and said, well, everything you just said I should change, I really like, so it's staying, period. I think it would have been better if I'd cursed her out. She didn't speak again, but by the end of the meeting, she pulled my partner aside and, according to him, demanded that I respected her more and her opinions, since her dream has always been to plan a wedding and I would be her future sister, so I should not place her aside. What? I mean, maybe. She's like super offended right now. My partner suggested that I should maybe apologize. At first I was like, there's no way I will, but I'm prone to act a little immature. And I wondered if I actually went too far. I'd have laughed when she said her dream had always been to plan a wedding. It's like, yeah, great, then you can plan your own. Just because you're excited about a wedding, it doesn't give you power over someone else's. Because in this, she wasn't just making like an odd suggestion here and there. Oh, don't you think this could look good or something like that? It was like trying to redesign the entire wedding, from the cake to the dress to OP's hair color, just because it didn't match what she wanted, which is wild at someone else's wedding. But the fiance suggesting an apology is a bit of a concern for me, it has to be said, like we see many times. All you'll be doing in that situation is a keep the peace apology, which never ends well if you go with it. She thinks she can just stomp boundaries whenever she wants. Fiance needs to put his sister in her place immediately. But a commenter says, apologize for what? Not letting her take over your wedding? Ask him if she's always trying to take over things, or if this is targeted at you, not the arsehole. OP responded saying it's just super weird because even when she suggested I should dye my hair, she said I should use the same box dye she uses. Embarrassed says you're the arsehole for inviting all these people to something like this that has nothing to do with them. Either don't invite them or set a rule next time that they're there out of courtesy and for support, not for actual input. Lol, not the arsehole. Also, if and when you have children, don't announce any baby names before baby is born or ask for opinions. It's a slippery slope. Also, sister-in-law can eat rocks. A commenter quoted the last commenter saying you're the arsehole for inviting all these people to something like this that has nothing to do with them, and then says, damn, I guess OP shouldn't invite them to the wedding then either. And OP replied saying, I just wanted to show off ideas. A commenter who was downvoted says not the arsehole, but she has a point. It sounds super tacky to be honest. OP says, yeah, kinda, but also I want to place Ariana Grande dressed as the guy of the Matrix hacking into a computer while holding an Oscar. Maybe I will. ZipTag says, look, on topic, not the arsehole, and your fiance needs to tell her that this wedding is for you guys and you'll have it how you like. Repeat as needed. She's being insane. Side topic, how can someone who is into movies and, based on your post history, at least open to science fiction, have not seen The Matrix, your fiance's favorite film? Why haven't you watched it? OP says, everyone keeps asking why I haven't watched The Matrix, and I get it, but part of our dynamic is kinda that. He's like a young millennial and I'm more of an older Gen Z. Our tastes are a bit different and he's much more reserved than me, but I like that. To answer your question, after some time of making plans of watching them, we promised each other at our honeymoon. 1, I would watch all Matrix movies or prequels or whatever they are with him. 2, he would listen to all of Ariana Grande's albums and watch 2022 Best Picture winner Everything Everywhere all at once with me, plus 2020 Best Picture winner Parasite. A commenter says, info, how old is sister-in-law? Not the arsehole, but I'm really super curious. Like, is she 12? And OP replied saying, she's 27. In the same post, OP comes in with a small update before the main one and says, so update. As we're having breakfast, I told him that it didn't feel great how he told me I should apologize over setting boundaries on our wedding. He said he understood and his sister was definitely in the wrong, but that she's too sensitive and can take things very badly. He said he could talk to her if I didn't want to, but I have the rest of my life dealing with her, so I just thought, I need to learn how to handle her this early, lol. So yes, I call her and I begin asking how she was. I kid you not, she immediately responded with, I thought you called me to apologize. Girl, excuse me? I fully said, well, no, I'm calling to thank you for your suggestions, but I'm sticking with what I chose. Bruh, hell, it was giving temper tantrum. She said, I'm only trying to help, like stopping a future car crash, you know, and I hang up. I told my fiance and he agreed what she said was messed up. She began calling him non-stop, which I think is crazy, but he's ignoring her. Her text messages to him are like, what did she tell you? Are you ignoring me? She got the wrong idea. I'm your sister. So it was 3 months, 14 days later that OP came in with what was titled as their final update. And it said it got to a point where I understood how she moved and acted through my fiance's family. And I haven't been able to update since wedding planning ain't for the week. But yes, she tried to call my brother for days after telling me that her opinion on my wedding was like trying to prevent a car crash. I took some advice from my post and literally just kept it moving. Well, at one point, probably a week after, my mother-in-law came over to my house not to have a conversation with him or us, but with me. She told me my future sister-in-law always had an attention problem, and while exhausting, she never means to hurt or insult anyone. I told her I understood, but that either she could stop nagging me about our preferences for the wedding, or I could no longer bring her in for the preparations. She agreed to talk to her. Fast forward to the next day, by like 5:30 p.m. Now, she was DMing me on Instagram like a mad woman, telling me I was being a bitch over an opinion she gave when I invited her over to see my wedding planner. I could not understand the bond she had with her brother, how she prays he will divorce me by next year so he can be himself again. I blocked her. I talked to my fiance. I put it all on the table. I grabbed some phrases I saw in response over my original post. I told him I could no longer keep it going this way. Either she stops trying to insult me in our wedding, or she's not getting invited. After some talking, he agreed. He called his sister and explained. She exploded at first, calling me a wicked witch and how I changed him. Girl. After some days though, she actually apologized to me through Instagram after I unblocked her since she texted my fiance she wanted to make peace, and I accepted it. She hasn't really said anything after that, and while I still don't know if she's planning to say something more in the future, I think everything will go smoothly in September. Oscars, Matrix, Ariana, indeed had a small cameo on my invitations, and yes, I finally saw all Matrix movies with my fiance. They're very interesting. Kind of feels like a way of saying that you didn't really enjoy them at all. But I don't think this is over at all from what I've read there. The apology only seemed to come after she realized there was going to be consequences for her own behavior. Not because she actually understood that she was wrong in any way. Because up until then, let's face it, she was insulting OP, saying she hoped her brother would divorce her within a year. That should have been enough. And she's acting like OP has somehow stolen him. This is a lot deeper than her disagreeing with wedding invitations or whatever it was. But like I said, I don't think this is over. I wouldn't be surprised if she tried something around the wedding or found another reason to insert herself later on, because I can already picture her at the wedding. She disagreed with the invitations and she disagrees with the dress. She's going to disagree with OP's hair. So she's going to be in the background tutting away, giving it a bit of attitude in the background, maybe whispering in people's ears and stuff like that. Do you want that at your wedding? Because that's what I feel like's going to happen. But now, I'm going to turn this one to you guys. What do you guys make of this situation? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Do you think this is the end of this story? And let's move on to another one. Now, our next story comes from Inside Camp 4009 from the relationships subreddit and says, my 24 female boyfriend, 32 male, told me he was a doctor. I walked in on him behind the counter at Taco Bell. I met him on an app 3 months ago. He said he was a doctor and that he did his undergrad in biology at an Ivy League school. Everything was going great. The sex was fantastic and he was very romantic, although he didn't like to spend a lot of money on me. Last night I just happened to walk into a Taco Bell and saw him working there behind the counter. We looked at each other and I went up and ordered without addressing him. Then I went home to process what I had seen. I tried calling him today, but he wouldn't answer. How could he lie to me like this? The men do this often. I'm in absolute shock. Should I just forgive him for lying and move on with a relationship, or should I dump him? I'm not sure if I would have given him a chance if I knew he worked at a Taco Bell from the start, but I'm in love with him at this point. What do I do once I manage to talk to him again? A commenter says, always Google them. Always. Opie says I did honestly, and nothing came up. Yodaface says, I mean he obviously did this because I'm sure he knows he's much more likely to get laid telling women he's a doctor than working at Taco Bell. Does he even want a relationship, or was he just using you for sex? Did you have no follow-up questions about him being a doctor and what kind and where he worked? I would move on if I was you. Opie says he told me the hospital he supposedly worked at and his speciality. Commenter replies saying, it wasn't even a good lie. How could you think a 24-year-old was a doctor? After undergrad there is med school and it takes many years to become one. You would have to have been a boy genius that was admitted to med school at 18. Opie says he's 32, I'm 24. Relevant says he never said what kind of doctor though. Opie says he did, I didn't specify it in the post. Big Beta says, I get that he lied to you and all that, which sucks, I agree. Putting that to the side for now, if he was romantic followed by great sex, but worked behind the counter at Taco Bell and told you from the start what he did for a living, you wouldn't have given him a chance. OP, who was downvoted for this, says, I wouldn't have got to know him or had sex with him if I knew he worked at Taco Bell. Commenter says, I mean, he may still technically have his PhD, although I do find it odd he couldn't find an actual job for that. Maybe he just can't find work for it. I mean, I would say he's clearly lying, but I have worked with guys that have engineering degrees that are doing a job that does not require a degree and pays significantly less. OP says he told me he works in the hospital as a medical doctor, just to be clear. One more commenter says to OP, cons, pathological liar, not much money and is ghosting you. Pros, great sex, romantic guy, free burritos. Hope that helped. OP says if you're a doctor, you could just buy burritos and a mansion. So OP came in with their update and says, I spoke to him again last night, in person. He told me he had originally started his profile as an experiment to see how putting a prestigious education and profession would affect his success on the app. He says it helped a lot. He really has a liberal arts degree from a less prestigious school and has only ever worked fast food. He told me that his original intention was never to actually date anyone while lying about his profession. He said that when I started talking to him on the app, he wanted to continue the experiment just to see if he could actually convince me to meet him in person, since other girls who had agreed to meet him before when they knew his real job had flaked. Then when the date went well, he was afraid to tell me the truth. I told him that I forgive him, but I could not continue the relationship. I said that we could be friends with benefits and he agreed. Then we just hung out like usual and I still ended up sleeping over. So at this point, we're no longer officially in a relationship, but I will continue to see him as a friend for now, as I consider looking for a new man to date. I will now be more open to dating fast food workers and other low-income men who are honest about their jobs. I'm not sure if this is the update anyone was hoping for, but it is what it is. So we're officially over, but not exactly. So there was some skepticism about this post below. Inevitable Bet says, oh no, don't be his friends with benefits. Is this story real? Commenter reply saying, most stuff on here is not real. This sounds like a creative writing exercise. The commenter reply saying it really does, and OP says sometimes truth is stranger than fiction. Commenter says, the ending, I will now be more open to dating low-income men, gives away that it's completely made up, probably by a low-income man who is angry at shallow women for not having sex and relationships with him. OP says, actually I wrote that in response to all the commenters who called me shallow for saying I wouldn't have started dating him in the first place if I knew where he worked. Another commenter says, lol, so he's still good enough to bone down. Saying, you're a whole ass liar, but there's a bunch of benefits of a relationship without being in one. OP responded saying, sex is not a reward for good behavior. Cecil says, your reward is outright lie by being his friends with benefits. Talk about this dude winning. OP says, I did nothing to reward him. I'm sleeping with him for my own pleasure. Another commenter says that has to be so soul-crushing for him. Good enough body to be used for sex, but not useful enough socially and financially to marry. OP says sometimes you get what you deserve. A commenter quotes saying, I'm not sure if I would have given him a chance if I knew he worked at Taco Bell from the start, and it says from your first post, just be honest, it was always the job. OP says no, only in the beginning. I said I will not be open to dating fast food workers and other low-income men, although I work in a job which requires a degree myself. Pavlok says, you and I have very different definitions of downgrade. OP says, why? I'm no longer committed to any sort of exclusivity with him. Now, I'm going to turn this one to you guys. What do you guys make of this situation? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. Just a huge thank you for being here today, getting involved in the stories, your love, your support, your time. It always means the absolute world to me. So thank you so much for being here today, getting involved in the stories. It really does mean the world. And I will see you in the next one. Take care. Much love.